welcome to Coffee with the Pastor. I'm Pastor John Woodin, and this is a message from Hollywood Faith Christian Center in beautiful Hollywood, Florida. We welcome you this morning. This is the continuation, day 3 of our election special. Today we're going to address Israel. I believe God is eternally connected to Israel, and here is why. In Genesis 12:3, he says, I will bless those who bless you, and I will curse him who curses you. And in all the families of the earth you shall be blessed. That's Genesis 12:3. In Joel 3, it says this, I will also gather all the nations and bring them down to the valley of Jehoshaphat. That's judgment. And I will enter into judgment with them there on account of my people, my heritage Israel, whom they have scattered among the nations, and they have divided my land. That's from the prophet Joel. Now, they're talking about a two-state solution in the Middle East. I'm not sure how that works and how that works geographically. If you remember, the Gaza is on the Mediterranean, separated by quite a bit of land from Judea and Samaria, which would what you would call the West Bank. So I don't know how you make that into a nation and then keep Israel having Jerusalem as its capital, and then the Palestinians wanting East Jerusalem as their capital. So it's going to be a very difficult process. I'm going to quote from the candidates. This is in an interview that was done by Vice President Harris with 60 Minutes. And she says this, I quote, the work that we have done has resulted in a number of movements in the region by Israel that were very much prompted by or a result of many things, including our advocacy for what needs to happen in the region. That's an exact quotation. You can take the issues up with the authors, but I'm just reading it as it was written. When Trump was president the last time, he moved the embassy, the U.S. embassy, to Jerusalem, which is the capital of Israel. We have none of our embassies are not in the capital cities of the nations where they are represented. So it's every president since 1995, Bill Clinton, promised to move the embassy to Jerusalem, and none of them did. There was always a presidential exemption that prevented it. Mr. Trump moved it to Jerusalem and to the eternal capital of Israel. On abortion, we want to hear Jeremiah 1 says this, and the word of the Lord came to me, saying, before I formed you in the womb, I knew you. Before you were born, I sanctified you. That's Jeremiah 1:5. Psalm 139:19 says, 13 to 14, for you formed my inward parts, you covered me in my mother's womb. I will praise you, for I am fearfully and wonderfully made. Marvelous are your works that my soul knows very well. You remember that the very first person to acknowledge Jesus was John the Baptist in the womb of his mother, when he leaped for joy when Mary came carrying Jesus. So these are very human characteristics, and that a child is a child, and the only reason is to abort that child is because we don't want that child in our lives. That's pretty much a bad thing. We understand that for the life of the mother, we understand that, but most of these abortion exemptions, etc., have nothing to do with the life of the mother. On sexual liberty, Hebrews chapter 13 says this, marriage is honorable among all, and the bed undefiled, but fornicators and adulterers God will judge. Marriage is the foundation point between a man and a woman, and that is God's foundation for life together as a couple. And God said, let us make man in our image, according to our likeness. Let him have dominion over the fish of the sea, the birds of the air, and over the cattle, over all the earth. And he ends with this: he created them, him, man and male and female, he created them. I don't care what your liberal friends may tell you about how many genders there are. In some cases 148, or they used to be 52, but I'm telling you there are two genders in God's world, male and female. You shall not lie with a male as with a woman. It's an abomination. For this reason, God gave them up to vile passions, which is the book of Romans. Now, somebody will tell you that they don't follow the old covenant, the old in the Tanakh anymore, because it's too rigid and too not inclusive enough. Well, then you have the problem with the New Testament in the book of Romans. For this reason, God gave them up to vile passions, for even their women exchanged the natural use for what is against nature. Likewise, all the men, leaving the natural use of the women, burned in their lust for one another, men with men, committing what is harmful, and receiving in themselves the penalty of their error which was due. And even as they did not like to retain God in their knowledge, God gave them over to a debased mind to do these things which are not fitting, being filled with all unrighteousness, sexual immorality, wickedness, covetous, and maliciousness. Matthew 24, religious liberty. They will deliver you to tribulation and kill you, and you will be hated by all nations for my name's sake. And then many will be offended. I mean, I can't tell you, if you can't even hardly watch any news reports, that somebody isn't offended by something that someone says. Will betray one another and will hate one another. Then many false prophets will rise up and deceive many. And because lawlessness will abound, the love of many will grow cold. 2 Timothy chapter 3, but know this, in the last days perilous times will come, for men will be lovers of themselves, lovers of money, boasters, proud, blasphemers, disobedient to parents, unthankful, unholy, unloving, unforgiving. Well, you get the point. You know, Timothy, pretty much, Paul writes it out to Timothy, pretty, traitors, headstrong, you name it. And from such people, get away from them. 2 Corinthians 3 says, now the Lord is the Spirit, and where the Spirit of the Lord is, there is liberty. Not censorship, not being rounded up and put into prison, not told to shut up and get off the streets, but there is liberty. And the U.S. Constitution, the First Amendment, says Congress shall make no law in respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof, or abridging the freedom of speech, or of the press, or of the right of the people to peaceably to assemble and to petition the government for redress of grievances. We know, though, that the Supreme Court redefined religious liberty by a letter that Thomas Jefferson wrote to the Danbury Baptist Church in Danbury, Connecticut. When they asked him if he was going to interfere in the church, he talked about the wall of separation between church and state. It's interesting because they would have you, that they didn't take into consideration that Jefferson used to walk every Sunday from the White House to the Congress, to the Capitol building, to attend a Baptist church service that was held in the House of Representatives every Sunday. So it's almost incongruous what they said. You know, they're saying Jefferson said the wall of separation, yet Jefferson should have said, well, look, it's illegal for you to have church services in a government building. That is not true. And that, nor did he believe that, because, you know, this tragedy was that Jefferson was an atheist, and that he was going to undo religion, which turned out to be untrue. I want you to consider, pray and then vote. Make sure you pray and then vote. It's very, very important that you do vote. You know, I hope what we've talked about for the last couple of days has been helpful, and that you consider that to make sure that you have a sovereign responsibility to cast your vote. How you vote is up to you, but you have the responsibility to vote.